Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Phoenix Over 40. I'm Noi, and we are streaming, and I'm just going to make sure for a second that everything is going through. It looks like it is. Awesome. Let's drop the Zoom link as well into the chat. If you happen to be on Facebook right now, I'm going to put that into the little comments section. Got it. I got it. It's been live streamed. Thank you. I'm going to put that into the comments section so that you can join me here in the Zoom platform, which is the best way to communicate with me because Facebook has a bit of a lag. So when I ask a question, it takes a little longer for you to answer. So I actually do more of my going back and forth here in the Zoom. So I encourage you to join me in the Zoom, or if you want to stay there on Facebook, go ahead and give me your thumbs up and things like that, and drop comments throughout the video as I call out for them, and we will definitely be watching those as well. Welcome, welcome. Hi. As people are entering, I really encourage you to let me know where you're from. I always love to know where the people that are joining me are from. My name is Noi, rhymes with joy, easiest way to remember that. And I am here in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, living my best life. And I encourage you to let me know where you are in the world and where you are living your best life, because I am a traveler at heart. I have always had a passion to travel all over this world. I'm finally getting to at this stage in my life, and I'm loving every minute of it. So I would love to know where you're from so that I can make some good connections all over the world. I have friends everywhere, and I'm always looking to get more. As people are entering, I'm going to share my screen, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this picture. Okay, so today's training is about mastering midlife mayhem to achieve true freedom. And I wanted to start off by sharing this picture. This was actually a picture that I took maybe, it was right after my second surgery. I know that because I have the tattoo. I had gotten this tattoo right after my second cancer surgery. So in 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it really threw a bit of a wrench in my entire Phoenix journey, but it was also an opportunity to recalibrate. And I'll share a little bit about that in a little bit. But this picture is taken at the top of a mountain called Cocoa Head. Cocoa Head here is one of the more challenging hikes that people can take, but not because of necessarily agility or location. It is literally just steps up a mountain. This was an old military installation back in World War II, where the military had a bunch of guns up here, and they would keep watch on whether or not the Japanese were coming to attack us again. And they created this long tramway or railroad to get supplies up and down the mountain. And the steps are still there. They've dismantled most of the top here. You can see that there are some pictures of the bunkers and stuff, but this is a torturous hike. And I talk about it a lot, and I'm actually going to be talking more about it now that I've gotten myself into the physical level again of scaling it every week. But this is an emotional and mental roller coaster. And it was the beginning of my journey when I first moved back here, because it represents to me a challenge that I put my mind to and solved. And it is a reminder to me every time I do it that I'm stronger than I know. And that's really important, because when it comes to achieving freedom, it's important to know that everybody's freedom is different for them. Okay, now in my quest for freedom, my view of what freedom looked like changed and evolved the further along I was in the journey. And that's the point. Everybody's journey looks different and changes throughout. None of us are like each other. And the beautiful thing about this world is that we are unique and we need customizable solutions that meet our unique needs. And that's what I get to provide you with today. This is a formula. This is a formula that is fully customizable and it can help you achieve whatever version of freedom looks like for you. And that's important because there are a lot of people that want to throw out packages and programs and things like that. But the truth is, if we don't have customization, we can't create an environment of success. And because everybody's environment is different. So understanding the main bullet points is what I am here to provide you with. All of the things that helped me achieve all of the freedom that I get to experience today. And if you've been watching my video and my page and even my profile, you'll see the different types of freedom that I have achieved. I've achieved emotional freedom from my own self-sabotaging thoughts and the nagging voices in my head that I'm not good enough. I've achieved mental freedom, the brain fog that is caused by erratic hormones and super amounts of stress. And I'm now able to regulate my emotions and I've regained my confidence. Matter of fact, I should just say I gained my confidence because if I'm honest, my entire life, I have not had much confidence, which has probably led to a lot of other things. But I've also achieved physical freedom. Okay. My body was falling apart. And I'm going to go into more detail about what that means, but my metabolism, my hormones, my muscle mass, I now feel vibrant, alive, sexy. I feel so much more in tune with my physical body and I love her, which is something I could not say before this journey. And, maybe you want to desire financial freedom. Maybe you're working at a job that forces you to live paycheck by paycheck. I've been there too. Guess what? I've been able to rework my finances, pay off $15,000 worth of debt in 2 years, and now have transitioned into working for myself and earning back my freedom financially and time-wise. And that's been amazing, and that's the thing, time freedom. What if you want time freedom? You want to control your own schedule. You don't want to be chained to a desk and a time clock anymore. You don't want to have to answer to a boss or to responsibilities or people depending on you. You want to be able to travel the world like me. If you want those things, this is the formula that can help you get it. And I'm so excited to share this with you today. I want to start off I want to take another look at this quote here. Okay. This is a quote that I found fairly early on in my really big transformational journey. And it's a quote from W.E.B. Du Bois, which is he is a an African-American civil rights leader. And he often would talk about the amazing strength of women and the value of women, especially in that cause, in that time frame, in the mid 1900s, when people were really fighting against a lot of racism and chaos. He came up with this quote: "There's no force more powerful than a woman determined to rise." Still get choked up when I say that because it's true. It's true. Women are a force to be reckoned with. What's awesome about women? Women have, number one, this is true physiologically, women have a higher pain threshold than men. Fun fact. Why? Because we have to give birth. We bring children into this world. We actually have the ability to tolerate physical pain more than our male counterparts. And I would even go so far as to say we have the ability to tolerate emotional pain more than our male counterparts. That's at least been a true through line in my life, is that when it comes to emotions and taking on a lot of stress, women have the ability to do that. We're also natural multitaskers, and we're detail-oriented thinkers for the most part. Now, I know there's always going to be differences because every woman is different, right? But statistically, women are naturally the best to juggle a lot of things and put a lot of things on our plates, which is why we're always statistically more likely to volunteer at things, to our kids' schools, to our churches, to our community events. We often work in administrative positions where we're juggling a lot of different tasks, and we're making, efficiency happen, and we're making the engine run smoothly. We're also risk adverse. This is natural because, the reason why we appreciate and value security and safety so much is because, as cave women, it was our biological imperative that if we're bringing children into this world, we have to create a safe space for them. So we not only have to protect ourselves, but we have to protect our children. So naturally, we are more risk adverse when going into large situations. We're often measuring, what do I need to do if this happens? Or what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Sometimes that can be, a limiter to some of the risks that we have to take in this world. But I believe it can also be a strength because we can see change and predict it, or at least try to predict it and try to come up with strategy. Women are also naturally creative. We tend to be really creative and expressive, better at talking out our problems with each other, which is why we like to often talk out our problems with our girlfriends, and we like to process things out loud, which makes us great problem solvers, which is why we're excellent in administrative positions, because they know that they can give us a large amount of stuff to do, and we will problem solve our way and put the right pieces in the right places so that we can create, a solution. We're super adaptable in social situations, especially. We love to jump around to a lot of different social situations. We often know how to get our way and even make the man think that it's his idea. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not the only one that does this. But we know that as women, we often have to not go through the front door in a lot of our approaches. We have to go through the side door or the back door. We have to find strategic ways to be adaptable and be the most value in the situation that we're in. And we really have a value for being loved. We're relational creatures, and we're emotion focused. Did you ever notice that a lot of your memories are either tied to a very significant person or food? That's actually the true way of the way our brains work. And this is true of men too, but women more so is the impact of emotional stimulation. We feel emotions very strongly, but we can also discern emotions. Men can get lost in emotion. They have a hard time, really noticing, and they can sometimes feel overwhelmed by emotion, but women feel comfortable in that emotional arena on the most part. And that's what makes us special. That's what makes us amazing. The awesome thing about women is when we set our mind to something, there is no limit to what we can do, ladies. And women, I admire more than anything in this world. The struggle comes when some of these natural predispositions can become more of a prison than our potential. And I'm going to talk about some of the problems that I believe that women face on the whole. And these are problems that I've seen not only echoed in my life, but echoed in a lot of the lives of other women in my circle of influence. Okay, one of the things I mentioned is that we want to be valuable. We want to use our skills and our talents to be valuable to everybody around us. Right. But the problem is in our effort to be valuable to everybody around us, sometimes systems and patterns of behavior can sometimes be created in our mind and our subconscious mind, and we can end up sabotaging ourselves. Let me know in the comments if you have ever experienced self-sabotage. I want you to put the word sabotage into the comments if you've noticed that especially as your life has gone on, that self-sabotage is you're becoming more aware of it. You're becoming more aware of the ways that you're either holding yourself back or even blowing up your own situations. Write sabotage into the comments. I would love to see if how many women feel that this is a common thread amongst us. And a lot of times the truth is this awareness really surfaces, gets really fully up to the top and rises to the top in our middle ages. And I have a few theories on why this is. First of all, our hormones are changing at this age. Okay, our hormones are moving from, being fertile and, wanting to procreate and, being beautiful and attracting good mates. And they're moving into a different stage of decline. Okay. So we were growing when we were teenagers. We're maintaining for a period of time in our fertile years. And as we're moving into our late 30s, 40s, 50s, we're all at our different time clocks. Our hormones are starting to diminish, what starts to create a little bit of chaos in our body. The result of that chaos is things like mood swings, changes in our period, our energy levels become inconsistent. We get brain fog with clarity problems, difficulty concentrating. And that can kind of change our attitude from the attitude of needing to impress people because we're trying to build our life. We're maintaining at a fertile age. We're moving all of a sudden from being very externally focused to being a little more internally focused, paying attention to the fact that things are in chaos. And we start to find ways to take better care of ourselves or realize that we need to find comfort. We need to find safety because remember, our biological imperative is safety and security. That's our goal in just because of being a woman. And now all of a sudden, because we have chaos inside, we can start to turn our focus from needing to oppress others to needing to make ourselves heal, needing to make ourselves feel better. And I think that that's a good thing, honestly, because I think that poses an opportunity. Because I look back at my life, at least, and see, how very externally focused I was, how much I needed to impress other people, how much I used my skills and talents to make other people look good and never got any of the credit for it, how much I worked my butt off for other people because I was trying to establish value and create security for myself, but by doing it through others. And as it probably all started about 35, my changes in focus started to look more inward and I started to get more aware, because I think this is what happens when your hormones start to change is your brain starts becoming more hyper aware of the things that are threatening your comfort and your happiness. And as the chaos is happening and your mood swings are changing and things are changing, all of a sudden you start sort of reminding yourself on a subconscious level of what teenaging was like. Do you remember teenaging? That's a word I just made up. Adolescence was the last time that our hormones were this erratic. And you can remember and let me know if you had any struggles with mood swings and you felt like you were in chaos when you were a teenager. I want you to give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up into the comment box if you can identify with feeling a little chaotic, a little out of control in your brain and your body when you were a teenager, because that's what the changing hormones in this stage of life are reminding our subconscious mind of. And so when our subconscious mind starts saying, oh, this is very familiar, I remember this. What were some of the thoughts that I used to have as a teenager? Boom, those dreams that many of us put into a pretty little box and put back in the closet because we decided to pursue other avenues start coming off the shelf. For me, travel was something I always wanted to do. But I had to put that away because I got married very young. I started having babies fairly young, 20 years old, 21. And all of a sudden, though, those dreams of being a teenager started to fall back out and I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember when I wanted to do that. Oh yeah, I remember when I wanted to pursue this, career goal. Oh yeah, I remember I always wanted to move to this place, or I always wanted to be with this kind of a person. And then all of a sudden we start unpacking some of the ways our life was before adulthood. And it starts to make us feel a little chaotic is the best word that I can think of, because we start to feel strong urges to reconnect to that old brave self, and I can't say that I was extremely brave as a teenager, but I did have dreams. I was brave inside. This wasn't brave on the outside. But what I noticed as I am now into this new season, a new chapter of my life, is that I'm becoming more aware of the ways throughout my life, trauma and demonic programming, and I do call it demonic because that's what it feels like, has kept me back or given me good excuses not to pursue certain things. And as I started, feeling this way, my relationships and my environment began to change. And that often happens to a lot of us in this stage of life. Either the people in our life are also experiencing midlife mayhem. This happens. This is a cataloged truth of men, that there are some midlife crisis types of things that can go on in their brains and bodies as well. But I believe we also have somewhat of a midlife crisis too, because all of this is happening at the same time. And as the people around us can change, our whole situation starts to change, or as we start to change, they start to change. So you can see that there is an energetic change that starts to happen in our environment, in our relationships, and oftentimes in our career. I know that all of a sudden, I got to a place where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I've been in the administrative field for 25 years in lots of different businesses because my husband was a minister and we got moved around a lot. So I always had to restart my career every time we moved. And so I've been in so many different businesses. I've been successful at all of them. I'm really, really good at working really, really hard for everybody else. But I got to a place where I said, if I want to travel, I can't. I can't have a time clock. I can't have a boss. I can't have a team that's depending on me anymore. I have to start making my own way, but that means I have to start putting the attention on myself, which is scary, especially when you've worked 25 years pushing the attention toward everybody else. But all of a sudden, things in my environment began to change. Now, if any of this resonates with you ladies, I would really love to know. I would drop a change into the comments section, either on Facebook or on Zoom, and let me know if you are experiencing, or a time in your life when you're experiencing a lot of change compared to other times in your life, where you're just experiencing a lot of mental, emotional, physical, relational, career, all of those different kinds of change. Now, I'm going to share a little bit about my story. Now, I want to be very clear about this. As I share my story, people are involved in my story, okay? But this story is not an opportunity to, demonize or blame anybody's choices or anybody's role in my story. My story I'm sharing as an example of the way chaos can accumulate and explode later in life. And I share it because I want to kind of shine a light on some of the pitfalls and patterns that sabotaged me along the way that I can now look back and see. Now, there are people that have done some unfair things to me, but fairness in relationships is not a thing, okay? It's irrelevant. Relationships are not fair because they're dynamic. They're not static. There's no such thing as fairness. And if you're honest with yourself, there's only responsibility and lack of responsibility. That's it. Okay. And what I want to really shine a light on is my responsibility in my story. The truth is, I have repaired and I have thriving relationships with everybody along my journey. And I am so grateful for that. But in order to get to that place, I had to deal with my responsibility inside, and I had to change my belief systems, because those were the things the entire time that were truly sabotaging me, not their choices. So I just want to lay that platform out there, because I believe that my story can kind of help to guide a lot of women that are out there who are going to resonate with a lot of this. Okay, that's laying that foundation. Childhood. Of course, it all starts in childhood. And the reason why it starts in childhood is because 90% of our subconscious programs are built before the age of 6. Okay, so the people in my childhood had a huge impact on me. And those main people, of course, were my parents. Now, my dad, I love my dad. Just got back from Norway with my dad. My dad's an amazing person and has brought himself through an amazing transformation too. He's the reason why I'm as strong as I am. But he also went through a lot of trauma, and that created in him a very difficult ability to manage his emotions. particularly around his kids. His anger, he was very erratic. He was very explosive. He was verbally and emotionally abusive and many times. And that chaos in me as a child created a really sensitive nervous system. You know, remember our nervous system is responsible for our fight or flight response, right? So as I'm experiencing a lot of chaos at home, I'm experiencing a lot of problems with a dysregulated nervous system. That then transcended into the school system because I was very kind of a skittish kid. I was very shy. I couldn't make friends easily. And let's be honest, girls can be cruel when we're young. Let's be real here. Girls can smell weakness like sharks. And I was preyed upon by a lot of bullies who chose to target me because I was an easy target and because I let them. I didn't stand up for myself. I hid from conflict. I avoided conflict. I tried to appease my bullies more than anything else. And it created in me this belief system that I am broken, that I am worthless, that I am not enough to please anybody, that I will never be accepted, that I need to find a way to find value in love and belonging. Love, belonging, and safety are all of the things that we are always craving at all times. And I couldn't find it. And so I was constantly in this, I need to earn favor somehow mentality throughout childhood. That really erupted into teenage years as I started to realize what I was good at. And I was really good at strategy, and I was really good at problem solving, and I was really good at doing large amounts of work. I was a very hard worker, just naturally. And so I would jump into situations that would allow me to prove my diligence and my hard work to people so that they would find me valuable. And that fed into my young adult, late teenage years when I met my husband. We were both far away from our homes. We were in college. I had moved all the way to South Dakota. I was raised in Hawaii. South Dakota and Hawaii was already a giant shock to my nervous system, okay, especially the winter over there. And it was in the winter that I met him. He was also far away from home, very used to his family, and he was lonely. Together, our loneliness attracted each other. And the same amount of brokenness and many of the same belief systems and patterns also attracted each other. I fell in love fast, so did he. We had a whirlwind romance, started having babies at age 20, got married not long after, having our first one. So we started early and we jumped into being an adult before we really had the opportunity to find out who we were as adults yet. And that was probably the shaky ground that caused a lot of struggle in our relationship. He had a very strong temper too. That was something that was familiar to me. He was an erratic personality too. He would have amazingly huge mood swings and giant temper outbursts, and he would attack me the same way that my father would. And so it felt comfortable. I began to realize that all men must be like this. At least all men that are going to love me are like this. So I began to think, that the things that he would say were a picture of reality for me. And the truth is, none of it was, but it was my choice to partner with it. Okay. And I stayed in that relationship and I fought for that relationship very, very hard, sometimes isolating my friends and isolating my family to do it because they could see that this wasn't healthy. They could see the way that he treated me was dysfunctional, but I was choosing him because I believed that I had to earn his favor. I just had to work harder. I just had to be better. And somehow I was going to find a way to do that. And that became a through line throughout my career, throughout my marriage, throughout my parenting, I always had to do more for everybody. I had to, make them look more successful, make them, a little less stressed, take off things that were their responsibility and make them my responsibility. And the constant doing that created a lot of dysfunction and a lot of stress and a lot of chaos. But by this age, because of my already pretty much super stimulated nervous system, I didn't recognize that I was even under stress because my brain, seeing how much cortisol was constantly running through my body, pretty much shut off its ability to tell me that it was there. It completely desensitized every natural signal that your brain is supposed to have to give you anything, including hunger, including fullness, including, feeling stressed when you're actually stressed. I lost complete disconnection with my body. As a result of that, what's going to happen when you're under too much stress? You're going to develop illnesses because you're not listening, you're not taking care of yourself. My whole world was making everybody else successful around me. And because my husband had actually, we ended up finding out when he was 30, he had obsessive compulsive disorder. He probably should have been seeing somebody for it since he was 13, but his massive amounts of stress and anxiety were why he was attacking me so much. And so his solution was to drink alcohol because it destimulated that. The problem is it also took off his filters. So while he'd been attacking me the whole time, it got worse. And what does a woman do when the man she loves is under so much stress? You work harder to make sure that he doesn't feel any more stress. So I took on more duties. I started melding myself into his career. He was a minister. He'd chosen that path, something I very much admired about him, but it was one of the most stressful careers people can ever choose. It's like being a politician. You're under the spotlight all the time. You don't have the ability to make choices. You have to basically appease 1,200 different bosses. It was so stressful for him that he was erupting from the inside. He would get hives on the outside of his body constantly from stress. So what do? I jump into his ministry too. It's not enough that I'm already taking care of the kids, logistics of their schedules, cleaning the house, making the dinner, working a full-time job to pay the bills because ministers don't make very much, let's be honest. I started putting myself in his ministry too. Oh, I'll be your youth minister. Oh, I'll be your worship leader. Oh, I'll teach Bible studies. Sure. All of these things. I had no time to look at myself. I had no time because I was so busy focusing on my value to everybody else that my body started developing stress-related illnesses to get my own attention. It started with my blood pressure. My blood pressure was statically going, or very slowly going up, little by little throughout my 30s. And I would notice certain times when it would peak. And when I would hit those times, I'd have actual anxiety attacks. I ended up in behavioral health 3 times because when those anxiety attacks actually happened and I tipped over into full-on PTSD, I was not in control of myself. I can't even really remember what happens, but I know that I attack myself. I would cut myself. I would, drink large amounts of like a NyQuil or some sort of medication that was around me. I would do all of these physical behaviors that I was unconscious of to hurt me. And that's PTSD. That's when I realized that I developed PTSD. My emotions, my nervous system were so frayed that I couldn't even function as an adult anymore. But here I was, so good at managing everybody else's life. I needed to do something to stay valuable, right? It all sort of exploded when I developed Barrett's esophagus, which is a precancerous condition of your esophagus because of acid reflux being so crazy all the time. I went full on menopause at age 36. I think it first started to change my periods and cause breakthrough bleeding, which then complicated my marriage because we couldn't be intimate, and that I couldn't have that. And I mean, my body had put on this layer of 30 to 50 pounds worth of fat to protect itself because I was comfort fooding myself. I couldn't keep to any diets whatsoever. I would try, believe me, I would try. I was really good at working out. Matter of fact, I was really good at spending every day working my body to the bone, bullying myself through Jillian Michaels workouts and ridiculous HIIT things. And never really listening to my body's request to stop, be gentle. You're being hard on me. So it started to create a lot of pain all over my body. I would go get, tests to find out where is this pain coming from. My muscle would not release all around this area. I couldn't hardly move my head. There were some days I woke up and I couldn't move my entire body because my muscles just would seize and I couldn't move. That's really hard to be valuable to people, right? When you can't move. But we would do the MRIs, we would do everything. And the doctors were like, we can't find anything wrong with you. So we're just going to put you on Lyrica. That was their solution. Put you on another medication. I had a severe anxiety. So they're like, okay, we'll take anxiety medication. That will help. And actually that did help me not go into behavioral health anymore, but that didn't help me deal with the problem. And essentially my body just kept developing all of these illnesses until I took a giant look at my life and said, I'm going to die. I'm going to die if I don't do something. There is a quote that struck me so hard. And it's from Tony Robbins. And it says, change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. It hit a nerve in me because I realized that I was in so much pain. I couldn't do it anymore. And so I literally had no choice but to dissolve my marriage, leave my children, because they'd created a life there. And my husband was not a bad father. He was an amazing father. It's just that he was making some really poor choices in the relationship and in his self-care. But he was a great father. But I had to get out of there because we were living in a parsonage. The church would not let me live there without him. I had to find my own place. I had to go into a shelter, and then I had to come home to Hawaii. Tail between my legs. Life crumbled down beside me. I couldn't continue at the level that I was doing it, living everybody else's life, making them successful, and completely ignoring myself. How often do we women feel like everybody else's needs are more important than my own? Be honest. Because I've seen this belief system in so many women. We're in prison by that belief. The idea that we can't ask for help, the idea that we can't spend money on the things that we want for ourselves, the idea that we have to take the jobs that nobody else wants because who else is going to do it? The idea that we have to do certain things because we have to do them because only we can do them right. You know, the idea that we have to protect other people from pain. This is a very common through line and belief system that was the biggest pitfall for me and so many other women whom, after I moved home, I realized were also in their own reconstruction process. This is a common theme, ladies. In our 40s, our situations, our brain, our body, it changes. Change is hard at this age. There's so many more ways that it gets shaken up, but it happens to us. Sometimes we don't even ask for this. It just happens. And so my goal today is, if you're in a place of severe change and you realize that you are more in pain now than the idea of big change, and you want to make your way back from that rock bottom, I invite you into this conversation, because this is going to be the most impactful blueprint for how to create your bravest self. And that's why I keep saying that in all of my how to be your bravest self, because that's what this does. This is the formula for creating your bravest self. That next self that looks a little scary, but you know you have to get to it. You know you have no choice. There's no going back. You have to move forward. That is the self that we're chasing. And it all started with my nervous system. I'm going to share a little bit of teaching. I'm not going to go into great detail here because I do a lot of this in some of my other videos. So if you're interested in learning more about the way that brain science works, this is the foundation of change science, is understanding what you're working with, right? Our brains are what we're working with. So I'm going to share just a really big overview, and I'll get into more details in future trainings, but it all starts with the 3 areas of our brain. And I've actually been studying neurology since I was a teenager. Why? Because I always felt like something was wrong with my brain. I always knew that either I had something deformed in there, or I just thought differently than other people. I just feel differently than other people. People would call me weird. They would tell me I was weird all the time. I kind of just developed that identity. Well, I'm weird. I'm just weird. So let's get into what weird means and let's look at brain science. So I've been studying brain science for years. Love it. And it starts with the 3 areas of our brain. So at the very base of our back of our head is our reptilian brain. This is our instinct. This is the gateway into being able to keep ourselves safe. Remember, safety, belonging, and love. Those are our biological imperatives as a human. So that's men and women: safety, belonging, and love. A reptilian brain is about survival. It's about creating safety, belonging, and love. That's where it all starts. But it feeds into this next big piece of our brain, which is the mammalian brain, or as I like to call it, the critter brain. The critter brain, this is your feelings and emotions. These are where your nervous system resides. This is right here in the central area of your middle brain. This is where your emotions are created. So once you've identified something that is scary, it goes through your amygdala and into the mammalian brain, where it generates the right emotions to match the situation. This is where your central nervous system decides if you need to fight or flight, or as I like to call fall, fight, flight, or fall. Some of us just drop. That's true in so many ways. And then you have the thinking brain. This is your human brain. This is what separates us from other animals, is that we have the ability to construct language, to have ideas, to have concepts, artistry, vision. And even in that, there are 2 portions of that brain, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, and they are responsible for different things. So it's important to understand the benefits of all of those. But this is where awareness comes into play. This is the brain that has the ability, the unique ability to look at a subconscious program and evaluate it. And that's going to become important in the future. Just a sec. Now, the limbic system. This is in your critter brain, in your mammalian brain. Okay, so the prefrontal cortex, that's this front area. This is your empathy, your insight, your response flexibility. These are the things that help you problem solve. Okay, emotional regulation, body regulation, morality, intuition, attuned communication, fear modulation. These are the things that help you look at a situation and make decisions about what your next step is. They are also the area where you learn new things, where you're able to bring in that new information, decide if it's any good, and either throw it out one ear or store it somewhere else in your middle brain. And so this is the entrance to communication. And then your limbic brain is behind that when it decides if it needs to fight, flight, freeze, or fall. This is your stress response. Am I safe? Do people want me? Emotions live here, and emotions are tied to thoughts. Thoughts generate emotions, which generate actions. Okay, so understanding that is really, really important, because that was the first place that I had to address, was my nervous system. And many women, I believe, are out there living in a constantly erratic nervous system because they are so used to ignoring those symptoms. They're so used to just feeling stressed all the time. This is just a normal part of life for many of us. They're like, yeah, my heart rate's a little high. Yeah, I mean, my blood pressure is like, I'm on meds for that. Yeah, I have that weird, kind of fluttery feeling in my heart. Yeah, my stomach, might not, be working all the time, especially when I'm eating. I'm noticing a little bit of discomfort there. These are symptoms of your stress response. And yet we women have often just rationalized them away. We've just ignored completely the fact that we are in a stress response and it's becoming normal. If anything, I'd like to pose the idea that I actually became addicted to stress. And I don't know if this is true about anybody else, but I literally would become addicted to feeling that excitement and that energy and that, ooh, I'm going to juggle more. Let's see if I can do this. I became addicted to it. So the very first thing I had to do was to destimulate my nervous system. The second thing I had to do was to start to rearrange my subconscious. This is so important, but we are taking in 11 million bits of information every second, and only 40 bits of it are actually conscious. The rest of it lives in our unconscious mind. So it's really important to understand how our unconscious mind is storing these programs, because these programs are running your life. And these programs, many of them, like I said, were created before the age of 6 and are literally on autopilot. These are where your habits reside. And that was the next thing that really became important for me, is that I had to start to bring awareness to habits and subconscious programs that were sabotaging me. And I did that with positivity. Okay, so first, when I destimulated my central nervous system, I developed a toolbox of a lot of different tools that helped me do it. And I have those tools available to you. They include things like a certain type of meditation that I used, emotional freedom technique, TRE, which is called trauma release exercising. There was a bunch of different things in my toolbox to destimulate my nervous system. It took a good 6 months of consistent habits of doing these things before I actually could feel the change in my body and I could start to feel joy again. After that, I started pouring positivity into myself. Well, many times subconsciously, I would listen to like guided meditations at night when I was asleep that would have like positive affirmations and things, because I was literally trying to unlock my subconscious brain. I needed it to let me know what was in there. And so to do that, I had to unlock it with positivity. Curiosity is the opposite of chaos. Not condemnation, not judgment, not frustration. Curiosity opens the amygdala and allows you to enter into the subconscious. And so by becoming curious and positive, I was able to let the amygdala say, okay, well, this might be interesting. Let's figure it out. Let's take a look. And I was able to do that with just flooding myself with positivity. I created an entire vision board all over my house. It wasn't even just my room. I had an apartment at the time. I'd successfully gotten myself out of debt and into my own apartment. And I put positive messages all over that apartment. I actually have a picture of that. I should share it, but I'll do it later. But I flooded myself with nothing but positivity because I was unlocking my subconscious and I was addressing change little by little. And when I say that, I mean, I was focusing on one goal at a time. And that is the next big piece of the puzzle, is understanding what each little step is that is manageable, yet scary enough to need help. And this is where I created my Phoenix Fire blueprint. Okay. And this, I go into greater detail about what this looks like in another video. So if you would actually like that video, you'd like me to send you a link to that, type the word blueprint video into the comments section. I'll see that and I'll send that link to you so that you can watch the blueprint for your bravest self. Because with every goal that I created, I had to enact this blueprint. And this is the formula for achieving your freedom. This is the freedom formula. After you take care of those other things, this is how change happens. I'm going to share my screen and just do a really sort of quick overview of it. And I go with the metaphor of fire. I resonate with fire. Fire is destructive. It is chaotic, but it is also rejuvenating, because after a fire tears away what is old, the new has the ability to rise from it. We have a goddess here named Pele. She's the volcano goddess. She is the perfect blend of masculine and feminine energy, because her fire is destructive and her temper can be destructive, but at the same time, she's also the goddess of the creation that comes in afterwards to create new and more beautiful things than were there before. And that is why I choose fire. And the chemical makeup of fire is heat, fuel, and oxygen. This is chemically, scientifically, the makeup of fire. So I use this metaphor to help myself remember the 3 things that are essential for creating major change in your life and achieving freedom. And that is A compelling vision, that's the heat. That's the thing that gets it all started. The heat is so much that this vision is so compelling, so tangible that you can see it and you know that it's different than a wish. Remember, there's a wants and wishes. Wants are, I want that so bad, I'll do anything to get it. And a wish is, it would be really nice if I could have that, but it doesn't quite feel real. A compelling vision starts the process. After that, you create a strategic plan to accomplish that vision. And that strategic plan includes the right steps in the right order. So you have to unlock that plan very strategically. And as a project manager, I have the ability to do that. If you need help with that, let me know. That's where I thrive. But not only that, you're also creating an environment of success. You're creating the processes, the platforms, the tangible environment to allow you to effortlessly follow that plan. Because if you don't have both of those two things, your plan is going to crumble. So you need the blueprint, you need the actual plan, strategic plan, and the environment to implement that plan successfully. And the last part, and I feel is probably the most important, is support and accountability. Support looks like resources, new knowledge, things you didn't know before, skills that you practice and you develop. Those are support. And accountability is somebody outside of you providing the things that you don't have. So that can be teachers, that can be therapists, that can be friends, that can be coaches. Those are the people that are able to have a different view of the situation and are able to give you a different perspective. Not only that, they're able to hold you accountable, because what's the difference between working out in your living room and going to a class at the gym? The fact that people are counting on you to be there. I know for me, that's a game changer. If I don't have somebody there that I'm actually going to let down if I don't show up, and I probably will find a good reason not to go. And that's where support and accountability become the accelerant. That's the oxygen. Okay, that's the thing that keeps it running the whole time. Without oxygen, the whole fire burns out. You need the support and accountability in order to continue to have that sustainable momentum to get to that goal. And with me, that goal started as Cocoa Head. Before I even moved home, I started on a Stairmaster in the gym. And I said, I'm going to tackle that mountain. Last time I had done it, it was like 10 years before that. So I was much younger. And I couldn't walk for a week. So I said, if I'm going home, the very first thing I want to do to impress myself is I've got to get to the top of Cocoa Head. And I did, but it took a lot of different pieces of that puzzle to get there. Once I did that, I proved to myself that I was actually stronger and could push myself a little farther than I thought. And each goal became scarier and scarier and proved to me that I was stronger and I was developing the habits that I needed to change. And while those habits changed, the evidence from those habits began to change my belief system. And this is the difference between coaching and therapy. And actually, I'm going to save that for a whole other video. Next week, I want to give you the difference between coaching and therapy, because what really unlocked my ability to change my belief systems and my identity was honestly focusing on my habits. And the reason why that works is actually a part of change science. And I'm going to share that with you next week. But here's the important thing. This is a customizable blueprint. Every change is customizable to you, your goal, and your ultimately bravest self, or next bravest version, let's say, because that's going to keep going too. You're different than any other woman on this planet, including me. You know, your past, your experiences, your belief systems, your relationships, all of it is different. And you need to find the right kind of support and accountability, the right kind of plan, and you really need to get clear on what that compelling vision is. And if any of my story resonates with you, and you believe that there might be a piece of it even that I could help you with, maybe a belief system that I mentioned, I encourage you to take the first brave step by just reaching out. I have the skills, the resources, and the experience to help women, number one, create that compelling vision, the thing that they know needs, maybe you might have a sort of picture, but it's a little foggy. I can help you get that clearer. I can help you with the right type of coaching sequence questions. And I love to do that for women, just help them get clear on their vision. I do that in my strategy calls, completely free, just because it starts there. And I know that the greatest amount of momentum will start with that clear vision. But if you want to heal your heart from a lifetime of feeling like you just weren't good enough or pretty enough or valuable enough to the people around you, and you want to attract somebody who truly sees you and values you for who you are, then we got to talk. And if you want to release your shame from a lifetime of being told that your dreams and desires are not worthy enough to pursue, and maybe partnering with that belief system yourself, we got to talk. And if you want to fix your body, you want to release your stored fat, you want to heal your metabolism, you want to feel sexier and more confident in your skin, we got to talk. And if you want to heal your hormones, maybe you have a non-existent libido. I went through that too. And you want to feel vibrant and you want to feel like a desirable woman again. Girl, we got to talk, because it's all about releasing your past failures and making that choice to move forward. And it all starts with a conversation. Reach out to me. If you're in this group, most likely I've already tried to at least messenger you to welcome you to the group, to ask you some questions. I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything. So I encourage you to go look at your messenger, because it's probably got a message from me in there. If not, you're on the list and I'm getting to you. We have quite a bit of people in our group, but I'm only trying to reach out to my women that are resonating with my message, because you're the ones that I can help. And I want to help. And it all starts with a conversation. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see if anything in my toolbox can be helpful to you. It's not a sales thing. This is not a spam thing. I'm not a bot. I'm a human being who wants to make connections with other women who speak my language. And that is the language of the Phoenix, the woman who wants to rebuild herself stronger than she was before. That's the language I speak. And that's what I'm the most valuable to the world as, because I did it to myself. And you can achieve the freedom that I've experienced. And I look forward to that conversation with you. Next week, we're going to talk about the difference between coaching and therapy. That just came to me during this thing, and we're going to do it. So we're going to talk about the difference between coaching and therapy, and how coaching helped me unlock and release a lot more than therapy ever did. I look forward to connecting with you then. Take care.